Nani? What's this? We got a video on a Tuesday? Yep, that's right, folks. Maintenance is today, not Thursday. Surprise! We're getting a brand new event today. And if the name of the prelude event, Realm of the Never Setting Sun, didn't give it away, it is a British UR event. In fact, a WR event. We'll go over both of those ships today. The actual name of this event is The Rose on the High Tower. I wonder if that's a reference to the princes in the Tower of London during the War of the Roses? That's an interesting, yet depressing, Wikipedia read if you have the time. So this event was announced during the 8th Chinese anniversary live stream. Wow, this game has been around for a while. If you didn't catch the whole thing live, you can watch the archive stream on my channel of Guardian E and I as we see the reveals for the first time. Editor Meta chiming in here. As I've been pulling clips from the live stream for this video, I noticed that there's a lot more fog on these than I recall from watching live. And sure enough, I checked with my own archive, and Billy censored it post-stream. So I guess if you want to watch the original, you got to watch my archive. So this live stream revealed a ton more than just the event that we're getting today. So just as a reminder for everybody, we're going to go through all the updates from the live stream before we get into today's event. I'm pretty sure that even if you watch the whole live stream, you might have missed something. But if you don't want to watch this, I'll have timestamps available so you can skip right to the new ships. So overall, we got a lot of new fun content on the live stream from various new PVs, a brand new anniversary song, and they even showed off some new cosplayers for the new ship girls. Azur Lane is still dominating IRL billboards too. Just to round up some of the other IRL stuff is we will be getting a bunch of new merch, although buying Illustrious's real oath ring will allow you to claim an in-game skin for her, similar to previous deals like Queen Elizabeth and La Terrible swimsuit skins. We have 2 IRL collabs coming that result in free skins for us. The first is Changfen with a teapot company, and the second is Admiral Nakamov with an initiative to plant trees in western China's desert. Also, Chinese Cowboy. These skins won't be coming today, but over the course of the next 2 weeks on May 29th and June 5th, respectively. And this is the point of the video where I have to reveal that because there is so much content coming from this anniversary live stream, they're going to be breaking it up over 3 separate weeks. And since we were already talking about collabs, and the English here stands way out, yes, we are getting a Black Rock Shooter collab. It is coming as soon as June 5th, right around the corner. Don't worry about your cubes for this UR event though. There will only be 2 SR ships releasing, Black Rock Shooter herself as a battlecruiser, and Deadmaster as a carrier. Both will be obtainable through event rewards rather than gacha. Speaking of collab events, we're getting a rerun. Although no date was given at this time, Atelier Ryza will be rerunning their event. And right after that, they announced there's going to be another collab with Atelier Yumiya. So all this is future content and thus won't be coming in today's update. Other ships that were revealed during the stream but won't be coming in today's data mine include Grenville Meta, which will be the new cruise mission pass ship, Kawakazi Meta, which will be the next ship in Operation Siren that you'll fight to obtain, and Little Agir. Her mini event will start during next week's maintenance. Manju also gave us a roadmap to a bunch of new types of content that will be coming into the game eventually. They gave us a more in-depth showcase of gameplay for the new farm simulator game mode, Private Island, and they'll be making updates to their last edition of the game, Private Quarters. They'll be improving the models, which includes adding shading, because this game doesn't take enough storage space up yet. Also, the next ship added to Private Quarters is going to be New Jersey. Moving on over to the next alternative game mode, the next siren you're going to be able to raise in Project Identity is going to be Explorer. And if you wanted more side content, they revealed a never-seen-before new game mode. They were pretty vague on what this is going to be, but I guess this is something else to look forward to. They also announced during the live stream that a bunch of the Chinese ships will get exclusive Chinese voice actresses to play them. I'm not sure if this will only be on the Chinese server or if we will also get this in global. Additionally, there are going to be a ton of quality of life updates to the game. They're going to be adding the Commander Handbook, which is like a revamped version of rookie missions. Should help newer players get through the game easier. It also gives you free Shinano or New Jersey. For chapters 1 through 9 of the main story, it will now only take 1 clear to get to 100% threat level. Man, players these days got it easy. You'll now be able to custom search by name in your dock. This was much needed. Hard mode missions are now going to also drop meta character development materials, so if you don't play OpSci as much, you can get those easier. A new batch use function is added that allows you to open 100 gear boxes at the same time. Oh my gosh, that will save so much time. Thank you. The upper limit that you can buy dock space and cat space has been increased. I'm a far cry from either. Specialized cores have been added to the metal shop, so it should make it easier to get UR bullets. And there will now be a story flow map in Memories. So those of you who care about lore can now map out the timeline better. We also get 2 new major arcana for the next Arbiters, Magician and Star. On stream, they described a new feature that will allow PR ships that you can only get one of, to use multiple skins. So those whales can see both of their skins if they want. Also, we will be getting a new Gear Lab update. And with that, I think I covered everything in the live stream that's not coming in today's event. Oh my gosh. Oh right, I forgot. Skins. Coming on June 5th, there will be 3 new oat skins. Baltimore, Janice, and Cheshire. There will also be so many new purchasable skins that they will break them up into 2 waves. Half of them will come today, and the other half will come next week. And since I just showed you all of Wave 2, right now on screen is all that is Wave 1, aka what is coming today. Importantly, Shimato will be the second ever ship in the game to get a dual form skin, an L2D and a dynamic animation skin combined. I'm really glad that Gallant got a name tag on her skin, because I could have sworn this was Bremerton. As with most events, we're going to get new gear skins, as well as a new dorm theme, and new battle UI. Some side events include a minigame, an invitation, and a wishing well. In the main event, there will be 6 new ships, and here is their fleet tech respectively. And while the event map drops aren't much to be desired, the event shop has a lot of high priority items to get. The quote-unquote free UR, Trafalgar, will get her UR vouchers in the shop. Also, Glorious Meta will be available in the shop, although you can get her from map drops. And finally, we have a brand new UR battleship gun, the Lion Gun, the triple 406mm Mk.II. And since this is the only new equipment in this event, I'm going to go into that right now. So as I described, this is a UR battleship gun. It's a triple shot and has HE ammo. There's only one other gun in the game that is even comparable to this item, and that is the New Jersey gun. So that gun does a little bit more raw damage. However, this new Lion gun has a faster reload rate. They both have the same firepower boost, and this Lion gun has better armor modifiers that allow it to do more damage to light armor enemies. This new Lion gun has better DPS across the board of all enemy types than New Jersey. Also keep in mind, because battleship guns fire so slowly though, this can be slightly misleading. So alternatively, in maps where the speed differential does not make a difference, we have to look at the per salvo damage. And while the New Jersey gun technically does more damage against medium and heavy armor, the Lion gun still does more damage per salvo against light armor enemies. And given that there are many other best-in-slot guns for medium and heavy armor, I think it's only important really to look at the light armor damage here, because you'd only bring this gun against light armor enemies if you're optimizing properly. So with that in mind, I think we have a new best-in-slot battleship gun for light armor enemies. Obviously, this presumes that you're using a generic battleship, and that the enemy you're fighting against can take a triple shot rather than having to go with a faster reload time double shot. However, this is a must-pick-up item. And your New Jersey guns aren't going to fail either, because you can only get one Lion gun, and if you are truly fighting against one of these light armor enemies I'm talking about, you're going to need triple battleship, and you can use a Lion gun on one of them, and you should have 2 New Jersey guns because of the rerun, so that you can have all 3 of them have really highly optimized HE ammo. So anyway, this is a must pick up item. It's great. We like it. Lion gets a new gun. Fantastic. All right, and with that, we can finally get into the new ships, and we're going to start off with a ship that's not part of the event, and that is Glowworm. She's getting a retrofit. She gets some much needed stat boosts, but she still feels pretty weak compared to the new releases. However, she just got a main gun +1, as well as an increase to her main gun efficiency. Is this retrofit gonna make her be able to do a ton of damage? Her torp stat and torp efficiency got boosted nicely too. So the retrofit only gives her one new skill, but let's read it. Every 20 seconds, there is a 100% chance to to launch a headbutt attack against the lowest HP enemy unit afloat. This headbutt attack is going to work similar to Morgador's teleport, where she jumps right on top of the enemy. Except this one is way more thematic with the ship it's on. And I personally like the fact that it prioritizes the lowest HP enemy. Also, when she does this, her torpedo reload time is just going to get a static -3 seconds to it. So that's really neat. She can just like reload her torps faster as she does this. I feel like you can time this pretty well with some 23 to 24 second reload torpedoes, so you can maximize some of that damage. Also, for 3 seconds after this effect triggers, if this ship takes more than 8% of its max HP in damage, she becomes immune to all bullet and ramming damage for 2 seconds. Okay, I guess she still takes damage from planes, but that's really nice because that will allow her to survive. That's the biggest downside of just jumping into battle, because you're going to take a bunch of damage right off the bat. She basically goes invincible when she does this, so that should be nice. Note that her other default skin already gives her a damage taken decrease from ramming. And while it doesn't protect her against planes, she's going to be right up on them, so they might not even get to fire on her depending on who she targets. When this ship defeats an enemy, she gets to heal herself 10% of her max HP. So technically, she can never take more than 8% from the jump, and if she kills someone, she gets 10% back. So this jump can actually be a positive heal if she just like kills the thing that she's targeting, which it will be the lowest HP enemy afloat. It might even be something like a suicide boat. So this could be really easy to get her heals. Now it is a flat every 20 seconds, so but I love the thematics of this. I love how this skill will work. I'm very excited for this retrofit. And honestly, with the main gun +1 and all the boosts to her torpedoes, she starts to do a lot more damage here. This is a really cool retrofit. I like it. Don't tell Queen Elizabeth that. All right, with that, we can finally move into the event ships. Let's start off with the main banner ship, the UR battleship, HMS Lion. At first glance, her HP stands out, and not in a good way. It's the lowest of any gotcha UR battleship in the game. Sorry, Warspite Retrofit, you don't count. However, that's where the bad things end, because the rest of her stat pool is on fire. Her firepower stat is only 1 point behind Raffaello, who is the second highest firepower stat in the game. Of course, Musashi is on top, but this is some really good company. And that is before you look at the absolute insanity that is her main gun efficiency. For perspective, a typical SR battleship has 135%, a typical UR battleship has 150%, even Musashi, one of the best ships in the game, has 155%, and Lion is sitting here with 170% main gun efficiency. Insane. And her reload stat is also really good too, tied with Raffaello and Warspite Retrofit. So she fires fast and hits possibly the hardest in the game. We'll have to see what her skills say about that. But before we get into skills, can I just mention she also has the highest evasion stat of any battleship in the game? Like crazy? I know she has a low health pool, so this is probably just helping make up for that, but Lion's gonna dodge. All right, let's look at skill number 1. At the start of battle, and every 15 seconds afterward, she triggers a special barrage. All enemies hit by this barrage are inflicted with the status Lion's Inferno. Enemies with this status are going to take damage over time via a special burn once every 3 seconds. And when an enemy with Lion's Inferno is defeated, it passes that burn damage, Lion's Inferno, to the nearest enemy unit. The fire never goes away. This is fantastic for mobbing. It will literally just burn through everything. And it happens at the start of the battle too, which is amazing for like PvP. 15 seconds is a really fast timer. The damage that comes off this barrage is really good. It is HE too, so it can inflict regular burn damage and then has this special burn damage on top of it. And I assume that this Lion's Inferno status is going to be referred to in other skills down the line, so fantastic. Great start on top of the massive stats. We got a really good red skill that's going to just burn through things really quickly. Skill number 2, plus 15% firepower and hit stat. There we go. Raffaello only got plus 10% for some reason, so Lion's getting all the damage she needs. But she isn't done yet. She gets plus 8% damage dealt by her main guns. Obviously, most of the damage that she's going to deal is by her main guns. I guess technically this means that the barrage won't count and neither will her auxiliary guns, but a lot of damage is coming off those main guns anyway, and that's massive. Musashi's super excited by using her lightning to get a 5% damage boost for perspective, and Raffaello gets a 6% damage boost, 12 I guess for herself, but has to use all this setup work of paint. This is just straight permanent. Continuing on, all of your ships get plus 10% damage dealt to all enemies inflicted with Lion's Inferno. There we go! Remember, this barrage comes at the beginning of the battle, and anyone it hits gets the Lion's Inferno, and it never goes away, so if everybody dies, the Lion's Inferno is transferred to the next enemy. This is a straight 10% damage boost. Like, we're coming for you, Vanguard, in your triple battleship fleet, because she can do very similar mounts here. You just need to inflict the Lion's Inferno, and that seems very, very easy. Also, she's going to give herself plus 10% crit rate and plus 20% crit damage to all enemies inflicted by Lion's Inferno. So she gets the plus 10% static damage, and then she gets the crit rate and the crit damage on top of that. Insane. Absolutely insane. And then, to boot it off, she gets a cross-fleet barrage. This is standard for a UR battleship. Nothing too special about that, but everything above it is amazing. All right, let's move on to skill number 3. We already got everything we wanted in the first 2 skills. Let's see what we got for skill number 3. It's a blue skill, though, so it's probably going to be related to defense, which she definitely is going to need. She's one of the weaker battleships in terms of survivability, and I should preface that with UR battleships. But let's look at skill number 3. Plus 15% evasion stat, which is great because she already has the highest evasion stat of any battleship in the game. All enemies get minus 15% torpedo crit rate and minus 30% torpedo crit damage. Interesting. So, she's kind of playing with the Italian theme here of decreasing the enemy's torpedoes stat. Okay, not sure I love that. More because I feel like that type of effect is an Italian theme rather than this being bad on her. She's heavy armor, so torpedoes are going to do a lot of crippling damage to her. So this skill is useful for her. I just feel like it should go on an Italian ship, not a British one. But that's just me. Also, for every enemy currently inflicted with Lion's Inferno, there we go, we're calling to it again, self minus 10% damage taken across the board, max 3 stacks. So basically, if 3 ships have Lion's Inferno on them, she gets minus 30% damage taken. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Between the evasion stat boost and the torpedo crit and this, it should actually be really good that she's survivable despite having a very low HP pool. Like, I'm just thinking PvP here, the barrage goes out, hits like 3 enemies, and that barrage happens at the start of the battle, so she basically gets minus 30% damage taken right off the bat, on top of being really evasive. So that will really help in survivability. So she has 3 skills. She has one that really helps with damage and burn and damage over time. She's got a nice support skill that just absolutely makes crazy buffs. And then she's got a nice survivability skill. All 3 skills, really solid. Lion looks stacked. Like, she looks crazy good. I think that she replaces Vanguard in any triple battleship fleet immediately. I mean, I guess you could run Vanguard, but you're going to want to run Alsace and probably Bismarck. So I think you're going to replace it. Like, if you look at some of these introductory stat calculations, like Lion looks much better even if you're giving up the Vanguard boost here. So in that sense, I think she's a must play. I'm interested to see if she makes a move in PvP. I think depending on how good the spread of that barrage looks, she could overtake Soyuz in that fleet. I don't think she takes over Musashi, and I think Alsace is just kind of too good, but I think she could take that 3rd slot from Soyuz depending on like what the burst damage is looking like. And yeah, this ship is awesome. Must pick up. Absolutely crazy. Leveling this up immediately. We'll see after some testing if we oath her, but man, Lion looking crazy. So let's move on to the next UR and see if she's any good. We have the Destroyer HMS Trafalgar. She is going to be obtainable just by playing the event. Obviously, you need to play a lot to get the points, but you don't need to test your luck against any gotcha here. All right, looking at the stats, and my jaw just dropped. I had to double check that anti-air stat, like, to make sure that wasn't a typo. 347 anti-air stat. Prior to today, the highest anti-air stat of any destroyer in the game was Laffy 2 at 274. And Trafalgar has an anti-air gun +1. 8th anniversary UR HMS ships are really just breaking the ceiling of power creep in stats. Oh my gosh. I know a lot of times anti-air stat doesn't matter, but man, this is a whole new level of destroyer. She might as well be a light cruiser with how much she has anti-air stats here. Even her efficiency is pretty solid at 160%. Outside of that, the rest of her stats look pretty standard for a UR destroyer. Decently solid, a little bit lighter on the health, but decent amount of damage and firepower and torpedo stat. All really good. I mean, she's a UR ship, so good stats across the board, pretty solid, nothing too outstanding outside the anti-air. Skill number 1 gives her plus 10% to her firepower and hit stat. Nice. When this ship fires her main gun, is that every time? Just one fire on a destroyer gun? This will trigger all the time. You're gonna like lag out my game with how much this skill is gonna trigger. Oh my gosh. Anyway, she's gonna alternate between 2 different level 10 barrages. Barrage number 1 is an HE barrage, and all enemies hit by this barrage get minus 2% anti-air stat for 3 seconds. I mean, it's not that impressive, but it's going to be triggering all the time, so it's just extra damage. It's kind of like a main gun plus 1 in a way. The second barrage, the one she alternates with, is an AP barrage, and all enemies hit by this barrage get minus 15% speed for 3 seconds. This one's a little bit more relevant because it will slow some things down. 15% isn't huge, but it is nice, and the AP barrage is nice for piercing. All right, so this skill number 1 looks pretty solid too. Nice, good red skill that adds a lot of damage. You're definitely going to want to throw a really fast firing destroyer gun on her. Sadly for her limit break 3, she only gets a normal torpedo spread reduced. I feel like that's the worst effect that a destroyer can get for her limit break 3, but it is what it is. And yes, her skill number 4 is an all-out assault every 10 shots. We'll just get that out of the way since we're talking about damage dealing skills here. Skill number 2, plus 15% anti-air stat. Okay then, because she needed more. When the flagship launches an attack, salvo only, so you need to have a battleship or battle cruiser or battle monitor, I guess, as your flagship with her, she's going to heal herself 5% of her max HP. That's awesome. That's a really solid heal. It's really easy to trigger, and it goes right on her, so awesome. Self-heal in the bag. Really nice. She's also going to spawn this glow realm, which is going to kind of show up on the map. And then when any enemy enters that glow realm, it's going to inflict glow on them for 10 seconds. Enemies with glow are going to get minus 10% evasion rate. That's going to be really helpful for your battleship flagship, by the way, which probably will be Lion. And then also that ship is going to deal 15% less damage to Trafalgar, so that's going to help with her survivability. It's going to kind of depend on the map, on who's going to get into the glow, but generally this is a decent defensive skill, not like amazing, but decent. I really like the heal. The heal by itself is solid, and sure, we get some glow things that are like a cute little gimmick. It's fine. I like this skill too. It's not like blow my mind, but it's also a good skill. Let's go on to the third skill, and this is actually the last one because we already did the all-out assault. Plus 15% to main gun slot efficiency. Sure, why not? And then plus 10% firepower, torpedo, and anti-air stat to all HMS ships in the fleet, because she needs to buff herself even more anti-air stat. Obviously, the other 2 stats are much more important, but I just think it's hilarious how this is just the newest anti-air destroyer in the game. Also, all HMS ships, this is literally just like better than Queen Elizabeth. Sorry, Queen Elizabeth, this random destroyer is just better than you at your job. This works really well with Lion, duh, and actually, Vanguard counts here too, so that would be really nice. Sure, why not? War Spy Retrofit, you can show up too if you want, I guess. And then we have a cross fleet, kind of. When this ship is afloat, when another ship enters the battle, so yes, a cross fleet, all HMS ships in that fleet get plus 10% firepower, torpedo stat, and anti-air. She has a cross fleet buff for the faction. So that's actually kind of funny because now you're sitting there and you're like, do I want her in the HMS fleet so that she can buff them all? Or do I want her adjacent to the HMS fleet so she can buff the other fleet? Crazy. Honestly, that's a really cool skill. It's really simple. It's one of the best support skills ever. HMS support there is fantastic. Trafalgar is also really good. If I was rating, I'd probably say that Lion is an A and Trafalgar is an A-. Like double A's here. Let's go. We're really happy about these. I think both of these HMS ships are fantastic. And we still have 4 more to go, but both the URs were stellar. So let's look at the SRs now. All right, first up for the SRs is the light cruiser HMS Cleopatra. All right, stat-wise, she looks very similar to Hermione, although a little bit more anti-air oriented. Luckily for Cleopatra, she has higher anti-air stat than Trafalgar that I was getting all crazy about, but she is a light cruiser. She also doesn't have an anti-air gun +1, and her AA gun efficiency is much lower, but you know, it's fine. Her stats are like mediocre for an SR, so let's move on to the skills. Skill number 1, she gets plus 20% main gun slot efficiency and torpedo slot efficiency, so that's kind of nice. So I don't know why they just put that in a skill rather than as her base stat, but that means she has 160 efficiency for her main gun, and she can equip a destroyer gun, so that's actually important, and she has 150% efficiency for her torpedo mount. For every 3 Vanguard fleet ships afloat, so that's just like the start of the battle, and as long as everyone lives, and in most battles hopefully will be all of them, she gets a self plus 8% crit rate. Max 3 stacks, of course, that's just the game rules that say that, but that means she gets a plus 24% crit rate pretty much all the time. I mean, if someone dies, I guess it goes down, but that's pretty good. Also, every 20 seconds, she's going to trigger a special barrage. Enemies hit by the bullets from this barrage are going to get minus 15% hit stat, and enemies hit by the torpedoes from this barrage get minus 10% speed. So yeah, this barrage looks solid too. It has torpedoes in it, and she's not a bad torpedo user either. Not amazing, but not bad. And so yeah, this is just solid for damage here. Nothing to complain about. That crit rate boost is kind of crazy if you think about it, but yeah, we like this. Move on to skill number 2. Plus 15% evasion stat. Okay, helps with some survivability. Also, the entire fleet gets minus 5% aviation damage taken. Okay, that's just better than anti-air stat. Sorry, Trafalgar. If there is another HMS ship in the fleet, maybe that's Lion, the entire fleet gets an additional minus 5% aviation damage taken again. So literally fantastic for anti-air because she's good anti-air herself. And then if you put her with, let's say, just Lion, the whole fleet gets minus 10% aviation damage taken. That's really nice. Also, every 10 seconds, randomly increase the firepower or torpedo stat by 12% for 8 seconds for all HMS ships in the fleet. Whatever random stat is chosen is going to be for all the ships. It's only HMS, so I guess you want to put her in a full HMS fleet to kind of buff. Interesting. Trafalgar kind of gives this vibe too. And then you're going to reduce that stat by 8% of a random enemy for 8 seconds. If there are 2 or more enemies afloat, you're going to trigger this effect again. Okay, in a full HMS fleet, this is going to massively increase the damage output. I mean, you're kind of reliant on it randomly choosing firepower because that is the stat that HMS wants to increase. But if you do increase that firepower, that's like crazy, especially with all the battleships you can put behind her. This is actually a really insane buffing skill now that I'm thinking about it. Like, this is really good for some HMS battleships. You really only want to play this ship in a full HMS fleet, but man, is it pretty good. I mean, her third skill is literally just an all-out assault, so that's fine, and it's just 2 skills because she's an SR. But as far as an SR goes, this is a very solid SR. Like, in a full HMS fleet, this ship can pull its weight. It's a really good support ship, and I don't know. I mean, it's hampered by the fact that it's got some Hermione level SR stats, but for the most part, both of the skills are very solid. So I'm going to give this a solid B here on this ranking. So let's move on to the other SR in this event. That's going to be the aircraft carrier, Glorious Meta. She'll be an event drop as well as in the shop. And normally these are easy because I can compare her to her base form, but her base form is really old and a full rarity lower than this ship. So this ship completely knocks it out of the park in terms of stats. Unfortunately, it still has that terrible loadout of 3 2-2s, so only 7 planes and 3 of them are fighters, no dive bombers. Aviation stat at least makes it over 400. When this ship launches an airstrike, the Vanguard fleet is going to get minus 15% damage taken and deal plus 15% damage for 8 seconds. These effects don't stack with air cover or fleet carrier, so it's like a mix of those 2 skills into one basically. All right, that's like fine, I guess. Most of the time you're not using your Vanguard to like do a bunch of extra damage, but yeah, I don't even think that'll make up for the lost damage you get from using Glorious, but okay, we're trying. Skill number 2, plus 15% aviation stat. That will help. When this ship launches an airstrike, there's a 70% chance she will trigger an aerial barrage. If the Vanguard fleet is full, she increases her hit stat by 15%, and she increases the barrage trigger chance to 100%, which is good because I was getting nervous about that 70%. Her aerial barrage is going to have some Hainu planes, which is interesting. They have decent crash damage, not like that matters for anything. Oh my gosh, what is this third skill? It is so long. I thought I was going to get through this ship quickly, but nope. Let's get on with it. At the start of the battle, she and all of your Vanguard ships are given a rose engraving. Every 15 seconds, an additional random main fleet ship other than her is given it as well. So basically, you'll start with 4. 15 seconds in, you'll guaranteed to get 5. And then depending on your luck, you might take a while to get 6. When a ship with rose engraving receives damage greater than 1% of their max HP, trigger a counterattack dealing 5% of that damage value to the nearest enemy. So this is a lot worse because the damage of 1.5% of their max HP has to come from a single instance of damage. There's no accumulation of that damage. So the single bullet has to deal that much damage. You can't have like 3 bullets add up to 1.5%. That still shouldn't be too hard to achieve, but it is a little bit worse. Also, reflecting that back is not as good. It's 5% of the damage they took. So if you took like 100 damage, it's only going to deal 5 back. So the counterattack is not super insane powerful. It's just a little dink. Depending on the number of counterattacks triggered throughout the battle, you trigger the following effects. Once per battle. So basically you just count from the start of the battle, and then once you achieve the count, you trigger that effect immediately once. So when you get to 5, she gets a plus 10% damage boost that she gets for the rest of the battle. When she gets to 10, she triggers a special aerial barrage. When she gets to 20, the next time she launches an airstrike, she gets to launch another one immediately. That's really good, actually. The 20 is actually really fun. At 30, she's going to clear her detection gauge, which means she's going to go back to hidden status, so she can't be targeted, and she gets a little bit of boost, which if this triggers 30 times, you're well into the battle, that's for sure. And then if this triggers 40 times, I don't even know if you could get there. We'll see when I test her out, maybe. She's going to heal all ships with the rose engraving, which should be all your ships if you have done 40 counterattacks, but yes, probably all of them. 8% of Gloria's Meta's max HP, so that's actually important because she's a carrier, so she's got a much higher HP pool than the Vanguard that she's going to be healing. And yeah, honestly, this skill is kind of fun. As much as it is daunting to read, it's actually just a fine skill. Like, it's fun, it's got counterattacks. We really haven't had anything like this. This is a skill that I was like in my head thinking of when I was thinking of like a theoretical Habakkuk coming to the game. I like this counterattack that she has. I mean, is it amazing? No, but like it does the trick. It's fun. I think this is definitely something that could be used. And given that most of the meta ships are just like crazy spam all these bullets and barrages and things like this, she's like the anti-amount of this. She's like, all right, you give me all the barrages and I will counterattack all of you. And yeah, I like it. Honestly, I really like this skill. And Glorious looks, I don't know, she's probably the worst of the 4 ships that we've reviewed so far, but I think this skill is fun despite it being like a really long text. And then finally, she has her Operation Siren skill that all meta ships get. She's just going to get a plus 8% damage dealt in that Operation Siren against boss fleets. All right, we've done all of the SRs, so we have 2 elite ships left. Hopefully this will be pretty quickly. We'll start with the light cruiser HMS Trinidad. She's actually going to be the accumulation reward, so she won't be in the gacha, but a free ship to get nonetheless. And while I typically just kind of roll through these with a spiteful elite ship stats be elite ship stats, her stats aren't actually that bad. If we compare her to the SR light cruiser in this event, Cleopatra, her stats are basically on par. She's got a little bit less anti-air stat, but that doesn't make much of a difference most of the time. So I'm going to say good stats, even though they're the same as the SRs, just because she's a low rarity ship and her stats aren't pitiful as I would have expected. They're just okay. Skill number 1, she gets plus 15% firepower, torpedo, and hit stat. So that's all going to help with damage. And then every 15 seconds, she's going to have a 70% chance to trigger a special barrage. Enemies hit by this barrage have their speed set to 0 for half a second. This barrage is actually pretty solid. It has a good chunk of damage. It's got torpedoes. The bomb that drops for this barrage is a total freeze. It's not a slow, it's a total freeze. Now, half a second's really short, but it's kind of interesting. It does come out every 15 seconds, so that's not too bad. However, that 70% chance is really holding it back. Like, you can't rely on this to be a freeze, but it's interesting to see a total freeze on a Vanguard ship like this. Not even a slow. Skill number 2. At the start of the battle, mark an enemy unit. It appears to be random. She deals plus 20% damage dealt projectile to that marked enemy, and she takes 10% less damage from that marked enemy. When a marked enemy is defeated, mark another enemy unit, and she gets to heal 3%. She can trigger that heal 3 times per battle. That's cool. So she can get a 9% heal pretty easily in a mob fleet that just like gets it to jump, trigger, and she'll get the heal 3 times. Yeah, it's just solid. This is really easy, and if it doesn't trigger the thing that you want at the beginning, it will mark something else later, so we'll get to move. I mean, both of these skills are interesting. I like both of them. She's also got an all-out assault at 8 shots. This is a solid, like, elite ship. Like, this is definitely usable. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything from this ship, to be honest, so the fact that I could even bring it into fleet and not expect it to die immediately is a bonus. All right, let's move on to the last ship of the event, the Elite Destroyer HMS Gallant. And okay, I can say elite stats be elite stats because they suck. Move into skills. Skill number 1, she gets plus 10% firepower, torpedo, and anti-submarine warfare stat. Okay, that's an interesting third one. I'm still curious why it's a blue skill, but we're boosting attack stats? Okay then. At the start of the battle, she generates 3 shields. Each shield lasts 60 seconds. I don't know if this is for sure, but this definitely seems like the longest lasting shields I've almost ever seen. Like 60 seconds? Crazy. Each shield blocks up to 12 bullets. So yeah, she's got a really solid shield here, but she is a destroyer, so you know, yeah. Skill number 2, every 15 seconds, 75% chance to trigger a special barrage. Enemies hit by this barrage take 12% more damage from Vanguard fleet, destroyers, and light cruisers for 5 seconds, and it cannot stack. If this barrage fails to trigger, instead trigger a sonar scan that lights up enemies for 8 seconds, enemy submarines to be exact. And then she's got an all-out assault every 10 shots, and she gets an auxiliary boost of 30% for all of her auxiliary gears. Okay, this ship is bad, collection only. We knew it. It's the epitome of elite destroyer ships. Nothing much to see here. All right, with that, we've done all of it. This has been a long video. There's a ton to cover, and this event's really exciting. Honestly, I am really pleased with the way that this event came out. I think the equipment is exciting. That's like a new best in slot HE gun. Lion is insane. I just like am so excited to get her and test how she's going to use. I think she's going to go in a bunch of triple battleship fleets, whether that be for clearing specific content, maybe AG content, for light armor bosses. It could almost be for any content that a battleship is. I still like triple carriers for heavy armor, but man, I think she's really solid there. I'm really interested to test her in PvP because of course I am who I am, but man, I'm really excited about Lion. I think she's a must pick up. I think Trafalgar is really solid too. I think she's a really solid destroyer that can provide you a ton of anti-air support as a destroyer. I think she also is pretty good for being a support ship in the Vanguard when you have a triple battleship fleet backline because of her ability to slow down the enemy and also the ability to like reduce evasion rate. So I think that's actually pretty helpful there. I still think like Mk.II and you know the other URZ ship are better, but Trafalgar looks pretty solid here. I'm not sad about anything she's bringing to the table here. I think in a full HMS fleet, she's a must pick up, like literally. And right now, like the HMS have some really solid options. Lion's really good. Vanguard's still a good ship, especially if you're running triple battleship. And there's some other good ships in HMS. Plymouth is also really good. So you can run her with Plymouth and Vanguard and Lion, and you already have a very solid buff there. So Trafalgar's also a must pick up for me here if you ever want to run an HMS fleet, or really like, you know, a good solid battleship fleet. I think she's much there, especially if you get into content where like you need an additional buffer to Plymouth and you want somebody who's fast enough. Like Trafalgar is pretty good there. Cleopatra was surprisingly better than I expected. She's got solid, interesting skills. Like she's very usable. She's got a lot of support for HMS. So if you want to run a full HMS fleet, then she's actually interesting there, especially when we're talking about Trafalgar, who is going to buff all the HMS ships in her fleet and cross fleet to all the HMS ships in the other fleet. So if you want to run like 2 full HMS fleets that get to benefit from that, like you could start getting down the line and start getting into these SR ships, and Cleopatra is a great option here. And like I said, she's going to be able to be fine for pretty much most of the content that you want to clear. Very solid. Glorious meta is not particularly that good. I'm not going to say that she's good, but I gotta say her third skill is super interesting. I really like the mechanic of these counterattacks. I think it's fun. I like the staggering. I like the ability to just like get these different skills, like relaunching an airstrike immediately right off there. So I think she's fun. I mean, is she going to be useful or used for anything? Not really, unless you just want to play around with that gimmick that is the counterattack. But I do hope ships in the future get it. Maybe Habakkuk? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, Glorious meta is what she is. And then the 2 elite ships are just collection only. They're there for the fleet tech, but that's what we expected. So nothing there. So all in all, a really super solid event. And we got a lot of things coming down the pipeline on top of that. This is going to be a 3-week event. So that's kind of interesting. So you can pace yourself a little bit if you want to take it a little bit slower. But don't you worry, because we got like a BlackRock shooter event coming like right on the back of this, which is crazy. I mean, you're not going to be risking your cubes because it's going to be through the event, but man, and then just a ton of quality of life updates and a bunch of other game modes. So anyway, happy 8th anniversary to Azur Lane. I think this has been a pretty exciting anniversary. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this anniversary and this event specifically, and I will definitely be streaming this event, so be on the lookout for that so that we can go through this event together. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely a longer one, but there was a ton of things to cover. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Until next time.